I was asked how I do my panoramic stitches, and it's really quite simple. There's just a few things that you really need to do to get the shots, and then the actual stitching part is quite easy. So let's dive in. Alright, so it goes without saying that you need a decent tripod. Something it doesn't have to be a heavy tripod, because obviously if you're hiking and backpacking then it's going to get pretty heavy pretty quick. But something that's sturdy enough and has a couple of features that really help with panoramas. So this is the one that I've got. Let's just tighten this up here. This is the Manfrotto Be-Free. It's a lightweight, it's pretty small, it goes down to about 40 centimeters when you pack it up. But the really useful thing on the legs is these notches that actually let you determine how low the actual tripod's going to sit on the ground. So with this setting, it locks there. Then with the wider setting, you can actually get it right down and get it really level on the ground. Really solid foundation for those shots, especially if it's windy. This really helps. It's a little bit heavy because it's not carbon fiber, sorry, but it definitely is sturdy enough for everything that I need. So one thing to consider is the panning base on the head. This one doesn't actually have one, so I needed to get something that fits in between. It's got the ball head here, but as you can see, when you disengage the ball head, the whole thing becomes undone and you can't pan with it really unless you are fumbling. So what I did was I found the perfect tool for me, and that's the Novaflex panning base in here. As you can see, it's got a spirit level, and then it's got 10 degree increments. So what you do is you get your spirit level there, set it right up straight, get your legs perfectly set up on the horizon, and then you set up your tripod. Depending on what you've got, I've got a 50mm on the Leica here. You can use the level to get your camera nice and flat with the horizon, both left and right tilt and forward and back. Once you've got all three components, the tripod itself straight, the camera horizon level and vertical horizon, then you're ready to go. So why is it so important to get your tripod and your camera perfectly level? Well, the reason is because you're stitching a cylindrical surface or a spherical surface, but for the most part it's a cylindrical set of frames that go around. And for the stitching software, say Lightroom or Photoshop, I think there's some open source tools that also do this. You need to get your camera panning around left to right perfectly. Otherwise, it'll result in a loss of resolution. You might lose the edges of the actual frames that you're shooting, and it'll have to crop in to get that sort of center portion. If you shoot it perfectly straight and then just do your increments, left, 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 then you're giving the software the most accurate representation of that cylindrical surface. And if you give it that, then you'll get the highest resolution files. The last panorama I did, it was 6 50mm vertical shots on the Nikon D810, which is a 36 megapixel sensor. And the resulting stitch came out to be 112 megapixels. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Bigger than I'll probably ever need, but if you can do it, then may as well. Alright, so let's have a look at some results and see the actual stitched photos. Okay, let's take a look. So we'll launch Lightroom. That's the old logo, I need to update that. Okay, so here is the main range sunrise shoot from a video a couple of weeks ago. Here we've got the actual stitch shots here to actually stitch together in Lightroom. As you can see, they're vertical, they're 50mm, roughly f8 ISO 64 at 1/6 of a second. There's nothing going on in the actual scene, so the shutter speed didn't really affect how it looked, just getting that exposure. So what I've done is my basic processing. So the original photo looked like this, quite dull, the color wasn't amazing, so I use my Visco Film Portra 400 and we get that nice look, and then a few tweaks to get the color right. I've got the lens corrections turned on, and once I've got my setting for all of the frames, then I sync them all so they all look the same. So you do that by selecting one of the frames that's set up, and then Command Shift S or Control Shift S on Windows. Select the settings. For this type of thing you want to select everything, and then you can sync those. Once you've got that, you hit Control M, which launches the panoramic stitching or merging preview. For this option we want spherical. I've always done spherical. It figures it out. It can take a while depending on the size of the frames. But once you've got your preview, then you can see that how it looks, and it's so easy. Once you get the photos shot properly, Lightroom just takes it all in and figures it out. So I've already stitched this, so I won't stitch it, but once it's ready, you click Merge. Lightroom will go up here and start working away, and after say a couple of minutes, you'll end up with your fully stitched panorama. Lightroom will also crop the photo as well. What I'll show you in a second is the original panorama. So you can see these edges up here. Lightroom's figured out where the photographs match up in the spherical sort of shape on the projection of it. And then it's worked out the innermost portion that gives you the highest resolution cropping in of the photo. The great thing about Lightroom is that it does panoramic stitching into a DNG file, which is a RAW file. So you still end up with all of that great detail and latitude to really go in there and get your photo looking great. You can even stitch directly from the RAW file without any editing, and you'll still end up with this sort of great looking DNG file, which is, as we can see, 17,000 by 7,400 pixels, which is just mind-blowing. Let's have a look at the detail here. Not too bad, little tiny bit soft, but I can probably put some, if I go back to my processing, I can put a little bit of sharpening in there. Oh no, I've already got it. We can probably turn down the grain a little bit. But yeah, here we go. So as you can see, it's a pretty straightforward process. The most important parts are getting your panoramic frames shot properly, all aligned, and with a regular interval of 15 to 20 degrees, depending on the lens that you've got, and then waiting for the shot. The location is the most important aspect of this. Getting the right light at sunrise or sunset will make your images stand out. This is by no means the most interesting version of this main range landscape that I've done, but it's probably the most well executed in terms of the panorama stitch anyway. So I hope that helped. It's a pretty simple process getting the panoramas. You just got to set your shots up, get them all, and then if you do it properly, then you chuck it into Lightroom or Photoshop and it just does the work for you, and then you do your final processing and out the door. The main thing to take away is getting those shots lined up with the horizon or in the plane of where your panoramic base is. If you want to get a different style or you want to get a vertical panorama, it's all about that getting it lined up with the panoramic base, and then when you turn your panoramic base around, then you are pretty sweet. So for the last week and a half, the weather has been pretty rough. It's been overcast most of the time, occasionally peeking through, but I've been at work or something and I just haven't been able to get out. I've got a few plans. I got Noosa Heads, I want to do Broken Head. In 2 weeks I'm going to New Zealand for a quick road trip, so that'll be amazing. I'm really hoping that the weather's good, but never know, so I'm going to plan for the worst and hope for the best. There'll definitely be videos to come from that, so yeah, so if you got something good out of this and you want to see more, like, subscribe, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you're thinking, and I'll see you next time. Bye.